Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. As you guys can see, we are finally reviewing this book, Under the Dome, by Stephen King himself. Now, as you can tell, Jesus Christ. Sorry, I thought my pages were bent. As you can tell, this book is over 1,072 pages. I actually finished this yesterday from the day I'm recording this video and uploading it. I'm gonna upload it the same day that I record it, so it's gonna be uploaded on Thursday. So yeah, I finished this yesterday on Wednesday, and I actually finished it fairly fast, I'm not gonna lie. I was reading over, I did say that I was going to try and read over 100 pages every day, which I actually, well, I didn't, because some days I did skip in between, but I tried my best to read as many pages as I possibly could every day. And yeah, I got it done finally. Let me just say, guys, I'm going to try and hold it up in frame as much as I can, but this book is pretty heavy. But I will say this book was crazy. And before I get into this will be a spoiler review, so click off the video if you have yet to read the book and you want to, and watch the video if you have yet to read it but you don't care about spoilers. So, or if you've read it already. So, yeah, I'm going to be just going over a couple of the interesting parts of this book and then talking about them and what I liked about it and parts that I didn't like about it and characters and stuff, and yeah, we're just going to get right into it. This book is hefty, so there's a lot to talk about. So let's just get right into it, okay? So first we start off by being introduced to some characters and stuff. You get introduced to Barbie, Dale Barbara. He was like an ex-Marine or something. So he was like in the military and stuff. And he's a cook right now at Sweetbriar. And his boss is Rose. I forget her last name, I just remember her first name, Rose. And, yeah, there's a bunch of other characters, Julia Shumway, there's Big Jim Rennie, who's a car salesman, and then he's like the second selectman of the town. And then there's Andy Sanders, who is the first selectman of the town, and then there's also, Sheriff Perkins, Duke Perkins, who is the sheriff of the town. There's Junior, Jim Rennie's son, and I'm not going to go over every character, but those are some of the characters that you'll be following along for a while, besides Duke Perkins, who ends up dying, like, pretty, early in the book. So, yeah, what ends up happening is this big dome that you see on the front cover ends up falling down over the town of Chester's Mill, and all of the characters are trying to figure out what is going on. So they're trying to use backup generators to power on the town because the dome ends up cutting off all the electricity and stuff like that. And throughout the book, they're talking to this military personnel named Cox. What's his first name? Whatever. I forget what his name is. His last name's Cox. So yeah, they're talking to him a lot, and a lot of stuff ends up happening. Junior, in the beginning of the book, ends up killing his girlfriend, Angie, and then he ends up killing Angie's friend, Dodie, who ends up finding her body, and he ends up killing her, and he stuffs both of their bodies in a pantry. And like I said, Duke Perkins dies pretty early on in the book because he has like a pacemaker or whatever in like his chest, and it explodes, I think, from like the dome. I know that happens in the show. It's just been a long time since I read the beginning of this book, so I kind of forget, okay? So I think that's what happens to him. I'm pretty sure the same thing happens to him in the book that what happened to him in the show, so I'm just gonna stick to that. And, yeah, Jim Rennie, throughout the entire book, tries to take order of the town. He ends up, there ends up being a file that Duke Perkins was having him, like, trying to get him arrested and stuff, and there was all this bad stuff on him and stuff, and Barbie tried to give it to Brenda Perkins, who who was Duke Perkins' wife, and he finds out. Big Jim ends up finding out, and he ends up killing Brenda Perkins, and then he also ends up killing Lester Coggins, which is like this reverend. I'm pretty sure he's a reverend in the book. And yeah, well, all 4 of those murders, they end up pinning all the murders on Barbie. They put him in jail and stuff. And this all happened through like 600-700 pages of the book. So that's a lot happens through those pages. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that happens. A lot of the officers leave town before the dome falls, so they have to recruit a lot of new officers. And the new man in charge right now is what's his name? Hold on, let me find his name. I finally found his name. Chief Randolph is like the head chief in charge now after Duke Perkins died. Oh my god. It just took me a long time to find his name, because there's a lot of characters in this book. I'm leaving out a majority of them because it's a lot of characters, like I said, so it's kind of hard remembering all of them and all the specific roles that they had. So just bear with me, guys. I'm talking about the more interesting ones right now. So yeah, they end up hiring a bunch of teenagers and stuff. Kids like Frankie DeLeps, Georgia Rux. I don't know if that's how you say her last name, but yeah, I'm just sticking with that. And then there's Carter Thibodeau, and others that I can't really remember off the top of my head right now. So those are like the more interesting ones. And there's a part in the book where they end up doing this bad thing to this girl named Sammy Bushy, and she ends up being taken to the hospital because she's profusely bleeding down in her private area after they did something bad to her that I'm not going to say. So you probably know what I'm trying to say, though. But yeah, and there ends up being this supermarket riot that was pretty much orchestrated by Big Jim Rennie. He orchestrates a lot of terrible shit in this book, and it just takes the town into a complete 180 and destroys it. He's not really a good leader of the town. When you read this book, you can see why. And anyways, Sam, or during the supermarket riot, 2 of the cops that did the thing to Sam end up getting hospitalized, and Sam ends up shooting both of them, Frank DeLeps and Georgia. She ends up shooting both of them, getting revenge, and then she kills herself, and it's really sad. And then there's more interesting things that happen, like Andy Sanders. He's the first selectman. He ends up going to the radio tower station, and there's this guy there that he ends up like kind of falling in love with, because they're doing like all these drugs and stuff, and he's telling him that they're in the wrath, or not in the wrath, they're in the lights of God or whatever, and God's holding them and he's protecting them and stuff like that. So Andy's getting all high and stuff because he lost his daughter and he lost his wife during the dome, so he's all out of it and stuff. And they're holding propane tanks there, and Big Jim tries to send people to get the propane tanks, but there ends up being a shoot-off between Andy and the other guy that's at the tower. I forget what his name is. And he goes there in the first place to tell the guy about Sam Bushy's death, because Sam Bushy was his girlfriend. So he goes there to tell him about it, and they end up having a good acquaintance. Why does that word not sound right? But yeah, and they end up fighting and killing a lot of the cops and stuff that go there to get the propane tanks and stuff. So they end up blowing up the propane tanks after they get not outnumbered, because they kill everybody except for one, and that's Mel Searles, I'm pretty sure his name was, who was the other guy who did the thing to Sammy with the other guys. So yeah, they end up blowing up the entirety of the propane at the radio station, and it ignites this huge fire that spreads and breaks all the buildings and tears all the buildings apart and spreads throughout the entire dome. And our cast of survivors, and I will get to this part as well, Jackie Weddington and Ernie Calvert, I'm pretty sure, we're going to break out Barbie and Rusty from jail. Rusty got jailed because he was trying to get Big Jim to confess to something, I'm pretty sure it was. And Big Jim had like cops nearby, so he knew what was about to happen, so they got him arrested for trying to manipulate him to do something he didn't want to do, and it was for medicine to keep him alive as well. So they also held him on what was it? I forget what it's called, but yeah, so they end up going to the jail. Junior gets there first and shoots 3 of the guards that are guarding the jail to make sure nobody gets in, and breaks out Barbie and Rusty. He gets there, shoots the 3 of them, and goes down to the cells to shoot Barbie because he really hates Barbie. So Junior goes down there to shoot him, but just in luck, Jackie and Ernie get there, and Jackie kills Junior. I was really happy that that scumbag died. Excuse my language, but I was really happy when he died. And yeah, back to where we were. They all ended up going to this place on Black Ridge Road to get away from everybody. And yeah, the propane and stuff blows up, and it ignites this huge thing, and the whole dome pretty much gets covered and is now toxic. And there's all of this stuff in the air that can kill them if they breathe it. There's not really any air, so on the outside, the military are powering fans into the dome on one side, where our group of survivors are trying to breathe the air in, but it's not much air, so they're kind of getting sick and dying. And they found this thing a while ago in the book, this like box or whatever, that has like high radiation that knocks you out and makes you see all crazy things and stuff. And if you touch the box, then you like see like these kids or whatever that are playing and stuff, and it's pretty crazy stuff. It's kind of like an alien book, and so they're looking at it and they're like, oh wow, what the heck is this? Maybe if we do this, we can get out. So what ends up happening is, after some of them start dying, trying to breathe the fan and stuff, before I actually say that, let me go back, because when this all does happen, Big Jim Rennie and Carter Thibodeau go down into his bunker that Big Jim has, and they're using air tanks and stuff in there to supply air throughout the bunk to keep them alive. And Carter thinks that if there's only one of them alive, maybe he can last longer inside the bunker and wait until there's fresh air outside, or maybe until the dome is gone. So he tries to kill Big Jim, but Big Jim ends up getting the upper hand, and he stabs him and shoots Carter in the head, killing him. And then Big Jim tries to switch out the air tanks, but is unsuccessful, and he ends up seeing all these ghosts of the former people that he killed and manipulated. So he ends up getting scared out of the bunk, and he ends up dying out in the dome to the toxic air. So I was happy to see him die, and it was kind of a nice thing that he died, because he's in like almost the entirety of the book this asshole that's just manipulating everybody around him. So it was nice to finally see him bite it. But yeah, where we were, Julia has the good idea to go to the box and touch it and try and beg for these aliens or children or whatever to lift the dome and let them be set free, and that's what ends up happening. She begs and they let them all free. The dome rises and it shoots up into the sky and it's gone, and they all walk out of the dome alive. And there's only like 20 characters left by the end of the book, because when that explosion happens, it pretty much kills off like the last 800 survivors in the dome. There was over like 2,000 at first, but a lot of people either died to suicide or the dome coming down and stuff, or just being killed off by other people, other lunatics like Junior. So yeah, the book was, it was full throttle, I will say that. There was not really a boring part inside of the book. I really named a lot of the interesting parts of the book that I really liked. There obviously was characters that I didn't like Junior, Carter, pretty much all the cops. And Chief Randolph was the one that was getting in the gunfight with Andy and stuff, and he ended up getting killed during the gunfight, so that's why he wasn't in the bunker with Carter and stuff. So yeah, it was definitely sad seeing a lot of these characters go towards the end of the book. It kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones, the last season of Game of Thrones, when all the main characters started just dying off because it was the last season. That's what it kind of felt like. You obviously see that the book is about to end. You're reading it and you know the book is about to end, so you're just reading about all the characters that you liked. They all start dying off, but there are a lot of notable characters that did survive the book, like Barbie, Julia, Rusty, Rose, Joe McClatchy, who was like this smart kid. So yeah, there's a bunch of characters that you are following and are invested in that do survive the book, but a lot of asshole characters that do die, that have pretty good build-up deaths and stuff like that, that were really nice to read about and nice to see them finally go. And I am a sucker for liking like villain characters inside of books and stuff, so I did like Jim Rennie and stuff because they made the book more interesting, but it was nice and I was happy to finally see their characters go. But yeah, this book was pretty crazy. I don't think I would give anything bad about it. It was 1,072 pages. So like I said, there was nothing boring the entire time. You're reading about these people inside of this dome pretty much succumbing to what is happening around them, and they start losing their minds and stuff, and they start breaking down, and a lot of crazy things happen, and in a result, they end up pretty much killing everybody inside the dome. It ends up turning into like pretty much a battle royale, and it was a fun book to read. I'd definitely read it again at some point, but probably not for a while. I'm trying to get through the rest of my Stephen King books. I'm currently reading The Tommyknockers, which is pretty interesting so far. I think it's another book about aliens, so yeah, it's definitely seeming that way right now. But yeah, Under the Dome was a fun one. I wanted to finish this book for a while, and I finally did yesterday, and it's my longest book I've ever read, so yeah, I'm really happy about that, and I want to get Stephen King's other two longest novels, which is The Stand and It, which are longer than Under the Dome. I'm pretty sure both of those books, I think, are longer than Under the Dome, so I do want to get both of those, and I do want to read those, which will be pretty fun to read. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. I give the book a 10 out of 10. The cover and everything is nice as well. And yeah, I think that's all for the video. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And if you guys enjoyed this long video after I was gone for a little bit, because I was reading Under the Dome the entire time I was gone, so I will try and start making the rest of the Generations videos. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. And I'll see you guys in my next video, whether it be a book review or a Generations video. So yeah, peace out.